Next up, I'm going to talk about monitoring and controlling the new tank. So I have always tried to stay away from too much automation with my tanks since I don't like to have too many moving parts. Just the chances of something going wrong increases in my view when there are more variables in play. So keeping it simple has always been a goal of mine when it comes to running a reef tank. However, I do believe aquarium controllers and automated monitors, despite all the complex functions that they can perform, are very important pieces of equipment since they can provide valuable data and help prevent disasters. I also believe in investing in high quality equipment that is reliable and can last a very, very long time. About 5.5 years ago, I purchased a Neptune Apex controller for my new 187-gallon tank. And, I had used Neptune controllers in the past, and I went with another one since I was familiar with them. But 2 years after the purchase, the LCD touchpad started to fail, and I was having trouble performing certain functions. I was bummed since it was relatively new, and I started to wonder whether I should go in a different direction to replace it. I did have a GHL Doser 2.1 as well as the KH Director, and I was really very happy with these German-made products. They were reliable and very well built. A reef keeping buddy of mine had made the switch a while ago to GHL products, including the Profilux 4 controller, and he had nothing but really great things to say about their stuff. So, based on my experience with GHL products and my buddy's input, I decided to go all in with GHL and go with the P4. It also made sense since I already had a GHL Doser and the KHD, so those could be integrated with the P4. Now, there certainly was a learning curve making the switch from Apex to the Profilux, but in the end it was definitely worth the extra work. I did find it easier to program the P4 since it had drop-down menus and checkboxes versus the coding needed to program the Apex. The P4 was pretty intuitive in this regard, so it made the transition easier. Okay, so with that background, let's get into my plans for using the Profilux and other monitors and controllers for this new tank build. Let's start with the P4. My P4 Megaset has 4 probes that monitor pH, temperature, conductivity, and redox. For pH, temperature, and conductivity, I plan to set up alarms to alert me if any of these parameters stray off course. I have never worried about monitoring redox, but that might change in the future. Another thing I plan to do is add these 2 water sensors to the P4 to alert me via text and email if water is detected on the floor near the sump. I will be attaching them to this leakage interface, which will be connected to the P4. I have this set up on the P4 I use to control my 187-gallon tank, and it really does provide great peace of mind. To prevent my skimmer cup from overflowing, I did program the P4 to delay the start of my skimmer pump by 5 minutes when a power outage is detected. To further ensure against overflows, I installed this do-it-yourself float switch that will turn off the skimmer pump via the P4 when the cup is full. Besides the float switch, I needed to install this breakout board as well as an expansion card inside the P4. GHL expansion cards are really cool because they allow you to increase the P4's functionality to fit specific needs. So there really is a lot of flexibility to go beyond what it can do out of the box. A second expansion card I added was for an additional pH probe, which monitors the pH inside my Reef Octopus calcium reactor. This will allow the P4 to shut off the CO2 if the pH inside the reactor gets too low. This will not only prevent the media from melting due to low pH, but it will also prevent a potential disaster if my regulator malfunctions and dumps a bunch of CO2 into my tank. A third expansion card is being used to wirelessly control my Mitras light fixtures via the P4. Okay, let's move on to monitoring and controlling other parameters not directly measured by the P4. I do have the KH director up and running, and right now I have it set to measure the DKH 1 time per day. I will likely increase the measurement frequency if I end up using the adaptive control feature. This automated function is really great since the KHD can be used to adjust DKH levels up or down whether you are using either 2-part or a calcium reactor. The final thing I want to touch on is GHL's Ion Director. The soon-to-be released Ion Director will provide lab-grade measurements for calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and nitrate, and yeah, I have a spot for it right here. The IND has a multi-ion sensor and requires no reagents, so that's pretty cool. Similar to the KHD, the IND will be able to automatically control parameters and keep them stable. For example, the IND will be able to maintain a target level of magnesium if it is being added by a GHL Doser 2.1. So that is my plan of attack in terms of monitoring and controlling this new tank. Well, that will do it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. One last thing, if you were looking to add some equipment, I do sell GHL, Pax Bellum, and Royal Exclusiv products, as well as Reef, Octopus, calcium, and Kalk reactors, which is the equipment I use and recommend, so I will put a link in the video description below. And if you need help with a new tank build, including help designing a custom aquarium or help reconfiguring your current setup, then feel free to reach out to me. I will put an additional link in the video description below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.